Joseph is warned by an angel in a dream to take Jesus and Mary to Egypt to escape King Herod's wrath. They escape by night, just before Herod orders the murder of all baby boys born in and around Bethlehem during the last 2 years. Although the route followed by the Holy Family is not recorded in the Bible, Coptic Egyptian Christians have identified about 25 places where they believe that Mary, Joseph and Jesus stayed during their sojourn in Egypt. According to the sources of the Coptic Church, the Holy Family proceeded from Bethlehem to Gaza, and then to El Zaranik, also known as Flaushiat. Then they threaded their way along northern Sinai until they reached Pharma. Midway between El Arish and Port Said, it was their last stop in Sinai. According to accounts, the Holy Family had to pass through this city before entering the Nile Delta. The Pharma branch dried up and the once flourishing city disappeared in medieval times and is now covered by sand of the desert. Today we find important churches' ruins from 5th to 7th century on site. The places they stayed in have now been transformed to churches and monasteries. Their next stop was Basta, is a short distance from Zakazak, the main town in the Sharkia governorate. We will see in Basta a 1st century well that some believe to be created by Jesus Christ. Here, Jesus caused a water spring to well up from the ground, and his presence caused the idols to crumble, as foretold by the prophets of old. The townsfolk, in consequence, turned malevolent and aggressive, whereupon the Holy Family turned their backs on the town and headed southwards. The Holy Family made their way to Belbis back in Sharkia governorate. The Armenian infancy gospel accounts that the Holy Family stayed here for 6 months until the Christ child reached the age of 2. Belbis was an important bishopric in the 4th century, therefore it witnessed a flourish of the Coptic Christianity in the area, and the place itself was mentioned by several historians and pilgrims. Having left their mark on Belbis, the Holy Family set off in a northwesterly direction and reaching the small township of Minit Samanaud. The local population received them with a kindness and hospitality that earned them deserved blessing. There is in Samanaud, to this day, a large granite trough which, according to local belief, was used by the Virgin for kneading dough. In the church's courtyard we find a well that was blessed by Jesus, which is now covered to protect it from dirt and pollution. Water is pumped up via a purification installation and is given to people to drink. Again towards the northwest, the Holy Family now traveled until they reached the city of Sakha in the Lake District of Burelis, in the present-day governorate of Kafr el-Sheikh. The Coptic name of the town, Pekha, Isis, means the foot of Jesus, for the Holy Child's footprint was marked, here, in bas-relief on a rock. The rock was preserved, but hidden for centuries for fear of robbery. The towns and cities now lying in both the governorates of Garbia and Kafr el-Sheikh. They now came after crossing the Rosetta branch of the Nile to the western delta, and heading south into Wadi el-Natron, then called Al-Asqit, in the western desert of Egypt. In the earliest decades of Christianity, the desert expanses of Wadi el-Natron became the site of Anchoretic settlement and, later, of many monasteries. In spiritual commemoration of the Holy Family's passage through the valley. Eventually, they left the desert behind them and made their way southwards, crossing the Nile to its eastern bank and heading for Mataria and Sham's ancient Heliopolis. In Mataria, the Holy Family found shade under a sycamore tree. At that spot Jesus created a well, blessed it and drank from it. The Holy Virgin also used its water to bath Jesus. On the place where she threw out the water, a plant grew which gave a beautiful fragrance. That is why it is called the Tree of the Holy Virgin. Babylon Fortress. According to the tradition, the Holy Family reached this place after leaving from Mataria and settled in one of the caves for years. Jesus performed several miracles in the district while his father Saint Joseph labored in the fortress to support the Holy Family. The Hanging Church, called by the name of the Hanging Church, the Church of the Virgin Mary in the Coptic Cairo enjoys a popularity among both Copts and tourists. It was named the Hanging Church, or Al-Muharraq in Arabic, due to its location above the ancient Babylon fortress. The other names for the same complex are the Church of Steps, for people have to climb a flight of stairs before reaching the gate of the church. The Church of the Column, for it was reported that the Virgin Mary herself appeared to the faithful on one of the columns of the church in response to their supplications. The Church of Saint Sergius and Saint Bacchus, or Abu Serga in Arabic, is among the most ancient churches in Old Cairo. It is built over the traditional site of a cave said to have sheltered the Holy Family during their sojourn in the area. According to the tradition, the Holy Family embarked for Upper Egypt here in order to escape from the pursuing soldiers of Herod. The local priest believes that the Church of the Virgin Mary in Mahdi is situated on the place of an ancient synagogue used during a time when some Jews had fled to Egypt for refuge. The Holy Family went to Gabel Altair on the east bank of the Nile. It is also called Gabel al-Kaf or Mountain of the Palm. Such nomenclature is attributed to the tradition that when the Holy Family came here, a pharaonic temple stood on the place where the church erects today. The idols of the temple collapsed in the presence of the god, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah 191. Consequently, the pagan priests turned angry and intended to avenge. So the little Jesus put his hand on the mountain, thus left the imprint of his palm, and split it in two to have a cleavage for the Holy Family to hide from the angry priests. Other tradition says that Jesus protected the Holy Family from a stone falling upon them and consequently left his handprint. The Holy Family reached Al-Ashmunan, once named Hermopolis Magna, a prosperous metropolis on the west bank of Nile. Today only ruins of the colossal Corinthian columns of the ancient basilica, dated back to the 5th century, remain intact. Al-Ashmunan is a place of importance with regard to the Holy Family tradition, or more specifically, it was the first Egyptian city to be associated with the tradition. For this reason, it didn't come as a surprise to see that a church in the town claimed to have sheltered the Holy Family 2,000 years ago. The church was dedicated to the Holy Virgin and Saint Waterman, a martyr depicted in the Coptic Synaxarium, a compilation of hagiographies dated to approximately the 12th century. The martyrology narrates that this saint visited the Holy Family in Al-Ashmunan, and that the Christ child blessed him by making his house as a place of worship. According to tradition, this is the place that the Holy Family stayed for 6 months and 5 days, and where Jesus, after his resurrection, returned and consecrated an altar in order to fulfill the prophecy in Isaiah 19:19. In that day there will be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. The location of the monastery is roughly the geographical center of the African Egypt. The holiest place in the monastery is the Church of the Holy Virgin, whose altar is believed to be consecrated in the 1st century AD, making it the first church in the world. It has a beautiful collection of the icons from the 18th and 19th century. In 1880 and 1964, the monastery subsequently erected 2 other churches and dedicated them to the Holy Virgin as well. Besides these places of worship, Deir Al-Muharraq also has a century-old episcopal palace and a keep dating back to the 6th century. It was constructed mainly to protect the monks from the attacks launched by nomadic tribes in the area.